This may age me a bit, but I watched The Village in a drive-in theater as a double feature with I, Robot. My family and I watched it by mistake. We wanted to go watch another movie that I can't recall the name of, but that was cycled out for The Village, and I remember sitting there for the first 5 minutes or so, wondering why this preview was taking so long. I wasn't a bright kid, and I didn't put together that there was no little preview screen in front of the movie, but this wasn't the movie that I wanted to see. Everyone in my family fell asleep except for me, and they all found the movie dreadfully dull. I managed to stay awake by drinking way too much soda. I hated this movie. It was long, it was boring, and nothing happened. For many years afterwards, I would say things like, it's the worst movie I've ever seen, or it's barely a movie, nothing happens. I didn't watch it again until this year for this video, and my opinion, much like Joker, has changed a bit on it. As it turns out, a 13-year-old likely didn't catch all of the nuances of this movie, but do I take back everything I've said about it? No, not really. I still found it boring, the plot isn't engaging, and the themes don't really work. It, like almost every movie, does some things very well, but I don't think it does enough to forgive its other sins. Content warning. This video will contain references to violence, murder, rape, religion, disability, and edgy jokes from the early 2000s. This movie is pretty mild overall, and my references are basically in name only, with no graphic depictions or descriptions, but if any of those are trigger points, I would suggest skipping this one. Thank you. I feel like not a lot of people saw this movie, or not a lot of people are going to remember it. I found it pretty forgettable, and it's certainly lower profile than the previous movie that I covered, so I think it might be helpful to go over the base plot as I understand it. This will contain spoilers for a 17-year-old movie, so if you don't wish to have the movie spoiled, feel free to watch a different video, or watch the movie and then come back and watch this video. That would be super cool of you. Go do that second one. I like that one. There's a small village that seems cut off from the rest of society and seems to be in the 17 or 1800s. The community is deeply religious and led by a man named Edward Walker, who has two daughters. There are apparently creatures out in the woods that surround the village that the villagers all fear to the extent that they use Voldemort rules. They refer to them exclusively as those we do not speak of. These creatures are apparently very attracted to the color red, like that old bull myth, and repelled by the color yellow, like the Green Lanterns. One of the village members, Lucius Hunt, who happens to be played by Joaquin Phoenix, I swear, I'm not trying to pick on the guy. I think he's a super good actor. He just happens to be in a lot of movies that I don't particularly like for some reason. Asks if he can venture past the woods to get medicine after another villager dies from some vague disease. The elders of the village all rebuff him, and this upsets him because he feels that there is nothing to worry about. Later, we meet Ivy, one of Edward's daughters, who is played by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she has a close relationship with a man named Noah, who's played by Adrian Brody. Noah appears to have some kind of developmental disorder and doesn't mesh well with the rest of the village. He laughs at inappropriate times, He is seen play fighting with children, and he's the only person in the entire movie that we see do any form of violence. Ivy encourages him not to hit other people, and then they have a race. Ivy is blind, apparently, but can run pretty well and almost wins their race. Noah and Ivy find Lucius brooding on his own, and Ivy reveals that she thinks he loves her and that she can sense some kind of color coming from him. Noah finds some berries and gives them to Ivy. It turns out that these berries are red, which is a naughty, bad color, and it should be ashamed of itself. Noah, when pressed unto where he found these berries, reveals that he had broken the perimeter and goes into the woods all of the time. And so far, nothing bad has happened to him. Lucius uses this to appeal to the elders again, but they won't have it. He then goes into the woods on his own and checks some stuff out and finds more berries, unconvinced of the danger. But there is one of the creatures out there that we see skirt off into the distance. Later, the monsters, those we do not speak of, which look kind of like porcupines, so I'm going to be referring to them as Porcuvoldes for the rest of this video, attack the village, giving everyone a heckin' spook, and they paint some people's doors with red paint. They're very sophisticated for monsters. Lucius stays out for a while during the attack, but Ivy can apparently sense him or his color or something, and waits with her door open for him. Eventually he rushes in and they hide together with her family and hold hands, which is adorable. Or something. Later, Lucius shows up outside of Ivy's house and they sit outside for a while and talk on her porch. She asks why he hasn't confessed his love for her, and he goes on a bit about that for a while before finally caving in and saying that, yeah, I totally like you or whatever. They kiss. It's revealed the next day that they're going to get married. Adorable. Noah finds out and confronts Lucius in his home. Lucy tries to talk him down and explain that there are different forms of love, but Noah stabs him. Lucy collapses on the floor and Noah stabs him some more. I do think it is a bit weird that Noah, the only developmentally challenged person we know about in the movie, is the only person to do violence against anyone else. That's kind of fucked up. This raises another question for me. People have to get hurt occasionally. They have to cut themselves or get cut and bleed. It's inevitable. Do they panic and assume that the Porcuvoldes are going to come instantly? That must be pretty scary. If I thought that monsters were going to come harass my town if I did something that happens to everyone occasionally, I would be a wreck. Oh God. It must be especially scary for people assigned female at birth, going through their first menstrual cycle. Their first time has to be like that scene from Carrie. That's gotta suck. Noah just leaves him there to die after stabbing him a few times. His parents find him outside on the porch, covered in blood, and they get the town to search for the victim. It takes a while, but Ivy discovers that Lucy is home and bleeding out on the floor. He survives and apparently is in a coma. Noah is locked in a building alone after Ivy smacks the shit out of him for stabbing her boyfriend. Ivy asks Daddy Walker if she can go outside of the town to get some medicine, and he reticently agrees. He takes her to a shed and reveals the whole gambit. The Porcuvoldis are just elders of the village dressed up to spook people and to keep them from going to other towns. He gives her a pocket watch and sends her out with 2 escorts that promptly
post out like a bitch,
leaving the blind girl alone to navigate through the woods, which apparently was the goal the entire time. Edward and Ivy both know that she's going to have to do this journey alone for some reason, and somehow they know this. She wanders around for a while and gets lost because she's a blind girl in a forest that has no markers. Eventually, she ends up in the middle of the bad, naughty colored berries. And one of the monsters that at this point we've revealed that they're fake, that the monsters do not exist. But there's a voiceover with a vague line about how they're based on a legend that permeated the town. One of the monsters appears and growls at her. They have a bit of a Benny Hill chase for a while, and she tricks it into falling into a pit where it is revealed that it was Noah the whole time. He found one of the costumes and decided to spook her by making scary animal noises, even though he's never shown to do that before, and didn't have any of the tics while he was wearing the costume that he's been shown throughout the entire movie. Ivy eventually finds a road and follows it, and then a wall, and scales it only to find out that it was modern day the whole time. Well, she doesn't find that out. She's blind, apparently. We cut to Edward and the other elders, who all have conveniently tragic backstories, and they met at a grief counseling group and decided that society as a whole was terrible, so they're going to go cosplay as the Amish. Ivy meets a park ranger for the reserve that was bought with her grandfather's fortune. She gets some medicine and returns back to the village. She reveals that she killed one of the monsters, and Noah's mom, who had discovered that he had broken out of the building that they just locked him in, begins crying. Eddie says that it's kosher because with his death, they can use that as a propaganda tool to continue lying to people to keep them from going out to regular society.
What a twist!
So, I feel like all of Shyamalan's movies have the same basic problem for me, with the possible exception of Unbreakable, where I don't remember if there was a twist or a mystery box, or Last Airbender, which is terrible for entirely separate reasons. But a lot of his films certainly do have this common thread that kind of screws everything up for me. The Sixth Sense, The Village, The Visit, Glass, Split are all predicated around a twist or sometimes multiple twists. The Village is predicated primarily on one twist, which is revealed at about the 2/3 mark of the movie, that all of this is happening in modern day and that the monsters aren't real. I don't think that this really works because we never got a full scope of why they are doing all of this. By the time it's revealed that we've chosen to be Amish and the reasoning why, the movie is basically over, and we don't get any time to explore the reasons for this, the grief and the sadness, what ideology this group has adopted, and why. We're just supposed to accept that this has happened. So, someone killed Walker's father in the middle of the night. Someone's husband was robbed and stripped. Another woman's sister was raped and murdered, and we just decide to up and leave society because of this. This has the potential to be a really interesting story. Watching Walker and the rest of the elders build this society would be very interesting to me. Crafting the myth of the Porcuvoldes and the rituals that surround them, starting the story here and not revealing it, but hinting at it in a few places here and there, just isn't all that interesting, especially for the relatively slow pacing of this movie. There's just no payoff. The tone is always pretty somber, and while it's pretty well shot and the costumes look great, there's just not enough to sink my teeth into. There's some time put towards Lucy questioning the elders' decisions and the validity of the monster claim, but it ultimately backfires and we're pushed back towards the party line. Then, when it is revealed that it was all bullshit, the movie tries to have it both ways. Walker says that the Porcuvoldes are based on an old legend that was common in these parts, and that's how they justify the monsters chasing around Ivy for a while before it's revealed that it's just Noah. It tries to raise tension after it already killed all of the tension with this reveal. Mystery box storytelling, and there are literal mystery boxes in this movie, never really works for me because unless there's more revealed with a second watch through, it is just a cheap way to make the movie seem deeper than it actually is. It didn't work with Star Trek Into Darkness, with Khan. It actively makes Fight Club a far more confused movie in many regards, and it doesn't work here. And I think that the reason that it doesn't work here is because we're never really given adequate space to really explore why these mysteries would be interesting. I think that's why good mystery stories work and stories built around a twist don't. A good mystery is about slowly revealing the ideology of the perpetrator until their motive, as well as their method and their identity, is revealed. As opposed to this, where potentially interesting ideas can be had, but by the time we know what's going on, it's a bit late to really delve deeply into this. We don't really explore this as a means of dealing with grief because the movie has no real central character to it that we see things through. Eddie could have been our point of view character, but he doesn't get a lot of screen time. And subsequently, we don't explore his tragic backstory or his reasoning at all. Lucy could be it, as someone who feels constricted by the society in some ways, but no, it's more focused on the romance, which is fine. But he also spends about a third of the movie in a coma. Ivy might be our point of view character, but that would be weird because she's not introduced for a full 15 minutes, and the focus is still primarily on her effect on other people like Noah, Eddie, the other elders, and Lucy. Ultimately, I don't know what the village is trying to say. I don't necessarily think that it has a cohesive message, and I'm not necessarily saying that it has to have one, but it is kind of implied that there is one by this somber, slow tone that it takes and some of the other details. I'm led to believe that it thinks what it has to say is super important, and overall, I feel like it's just an almost 2 hour movie that doesn't explore its characters, its world, or anything else particularly well. It introduces ideas that could be interesting, but ultimately falls short because it doesn't seem to want to have anything to do with them. Part of this is because of the mystery box nature of the movie. It could have developed some really cool themes about propaganda and its nature to religion, or about love and sacrifice, or about the grieving process. Any of those could have been really cool, but it kind of starts a lot of these and then never fully develops any of them. And this creates a rather lackluster experience. Even now, I feel the movie slipping out of my memory only to be forgotten. It's just kind of aggressively forgettable and meh, which is kind of worse than it being as bad as Devil or Last Airbender. At least with a bad movie, its impression sticks with you, whereas next week I'm probably not going to remember watching The Village in any kind of real detail. Those are my thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, I guess. I have a vague concept for two more videos, and after that, I'm gonna be struggling. Someone wants to know my ideas on the 2016 Suicide Squad movie, which is something that I was kind of excited about back then, and when I saw it, thought it was disappointing. And then there is Crimson Peaks, which is a neat psychological horror movie with Tom Hiddleston being too sexy. If there's any movie that you want someone to talk about, you can throw it down in the comments and I'll take a look at it and check to see what's going on. And while you're down there commenting on all of the movies I should do, why not give this video a like and subscribe and share this with your friends? They'll love it. I'm so smart. Being able to criticize the works that already exist. No one can do what I am doing. I'm the first ever movie critic. Those are facts. Don't Google it or check that claim. Just believe me. I'm the first ever movie critic, signing off.